This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. How to win business and influence profits. Listen in as the two business guys discuss how you can get more business and make more money. Enjoy. So, hey, everybody, the two business guys are back. We're masterminding on today, and I tell you, it's going to be a topic that as I talked to John and we were putting together the show notes, I says we could probably argue on this one, right?
I just hope I understood you right, Randy.
And I meant argue for our points of view. I argue for, not with each other necessarily, but with the ideas of why, right? And when we get into this topic, it's the topic heading that we try to start off with every week is something that then we dive into it, right? And if you guys have heard us, sometimes we veer off from it. But how to win business and influence profits. How to win business and influence profits. And I want to enter into our talk today and just talking flat out about getting business and making profits. It seems to be the thing that is on a lot of people's businesses' minds. And then I asked a very simple question. And when we're masterminding everybody, we're also asking questions of our own business. Throughout the week, John and I sometimes go back and forth. I'll, get an idea in my head. I'll send it over to him about his business. He'll respond back, expand on that. What do you mean by that? Or, something that, hey, I haven't heard of this, and say, great. And then that kind of starts the evolution of going after business, right? So flat out talking about getting business, how to win business and influence profits. Now, you probably thought I was going to say something else, right? How to win friends and influence people. But we can use those same kind of concepts and then start thinking to ourselves, how can we win more business? So we're going to jump into this. John, do you know what I'm talking about? I am fired up today. And that's why I said it should be one of those episodes, man, that we just are dropping good nuggets throughout. And our back and forth banter, our style, the thing that we do should, I think, rise up some things in ourselves and things in the people that are listening right now. Here's something that kind of struck me. I was watching this show on HBO, right? It's HBO Sports. Now, I typically don't. I love sports, but I don't watch the shows. And it was two coaches talking, two very popular coaches. One just won his seventh. Get this, everybody! Seventh national championship. Seventh, and that's Nick Saban. Right. So 7 national championships. And one of the things that he said in there, he says, he was talking to his players. He says, what are you willing to do? The success is going to come from what you're willing to do. And then he put a little side note and what you're willing to give up. So what are you willing to do? So when we talk about winning business and influencing profits, what are you willing to do in your business? We got to look at this. Are you leveraging your business the best it can be leveraged? Are you doing whatever it takes, not what you think? Because when you're going out there and you are trying to win business and influence your profits, it's going to come down to what you are willing to do. So I'm going to open with that, John, and I'm going to, even put that question out to you guys. What are you willing to do? Look at what you're doing right now, right? Did you get 8 hours of sleep? Oh, that's fantastic. Did you watch 3 to 4 hours of TV? Well, that's nice. Did you work on your business to the bone? Did you fall asleep instead of going to sleep, working on your business? Did you leverage all of this free information and free tools on how to until an idea sparked you to get out there and get some stuff done? right? So we're getting into some specific things, but John, what do you think about this? Are we laying big old eggs on our business? After last week, I kind of felt like, you know what, I may be laying an egg. I may not be doing enough. I may not be working smart enough. I may not be leveraging enough people. I just, so I got personally fired up, and, that led me to just open up a floodgate of other opportunities for people, because when I get really like this, I want to help more, help more, not charge more, help more, because I think it's all about that. Am I reaching out to more people? Right? You get help when you help others. So this is what we're going to be talking about, how we're going to do this. And we're going to hit you with some specific things. But John, when we get to thinking about this, right? And, I sent you a message last week, it's like, hey, you want to do, what do you think about this? Are we doing everything? Do you see businesses just flat out trying to win business and influence their profits?
I think it varies. And I'm going to do another play on a book to respond to that. The book Too Big to Fail, and something that came to mind right before the show is Too Driven to Stop. And in Napoleon Hill's book, what is it? Think Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich. The title escaped me for a moment. He talks about a gentleman who ended up becoming one of Thomas Edison's partners, and I believe his last name was Barnes. Mm-hmm. It's been a while, but I think that's correct. But he talks about how he had this in his mind for many years. He didn't know Edison. He didn't have the means to get out to New Jersey where Edison was. And he just blindly, I believe it was took the train to New Jersey or whatever, and showed up at Edison's place of work.
He business stalked him, huh?
He did, and he's like, hey, I'm going to be your partner. Not I'm going to work for you. I'm going to be your partner. And Edison put him to work right away. He wasn't his partner right away, but what happened was Edison saw the drive in the gentleman. He's willing to do all of this, risk all of that, and stake his life on that, take himself out of his comfort zone. And I think that's how businesses succeed. And sometimes when we do this, we feel crazy because it's like nobody else understands it. And that should be a sign that you're probably doing what you should be doing, because everybody else is too lazy or not driven enough to do what you're doing, to take the initiative. But you look at
Too Driven to Stop. Is that it?
It is Too Driven to Stop. And Napoleon Hill kind of talks about when you have highly successful people like this, it's not if something's going to happen, it's when is it going to happen? When is this going to manifest? Because I'm not giving up. And I think that's something that people start a business and they're like, oh, I'm in it. I've been doing it for 3 weeks and I'm not getting a sale. I'm doing it for 3 months. I'm not getting a sale. And it's not the way that I anticipated, but it's how can you stick that out and keep moving through the discouragement? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the test, because it could be 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years before you start picking up momentum.
Oh my gosh.
How are you willing to stay in the game? Are you willing to be consistent? Because we've all heard of the bamboo tree. I believe it's takes 5 or 6 years for it just to sprout up out of the ground. Mm-hmm. But when it sprouts up out of the ground, it shoots up really quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to be consistent in watering it every single day for that 5 or 6 years or whatever it is. And you don't know, because you can't see the root popping, the whatever it is popping up. But consistency matters, and it matters in our business as well. And I think when things become discouraging, or when things become difficult, or we don't want to do something, hey, I'm not good at sales. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to pick up the phone and call somebody. I think what happens is we talk ourselves out of being successful.
Yeah, and that's so how to win business and influence profits. Tip number one: you got to be absolutely laser focused sometimes, right? You have to be unwilling to stop, to be so driven to stop, right? And we've talked a little bit about this before in depending on what we were talking about, whether it's sales or something like that. But in this particular day and age, right now, we have every single thing at our disposal to be successful. Everybody, we've got it. You've got it. The question becomes, like we had talked about at the top of this, is what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to be so driven that other people are looking at you like that guy's out of his mind? They're studying too much. Let's go party. I can remember what Mark Cuban had said, that all of his buddies, they were out partying and having a good time. He didn't take vacation for like 6 years, right? So that becomes like the bamboo tree. He watered his idea for 6 years and then it popped. And then once it popped, now, he was able to sell one of his companies, make a whole bunch of money, and then leverage that into so many other ways. John, I was on a training this weekend because I believe that you constantly have to put, stuff in your head. You constantly have to get the seeds inside from, picking it up from different things, right? And so I'm on this training, and in there, the guy says, he did his FAQs at the end. And he says, will this business boom for you right away? And he says, mm-mm. He says, because it takes the watering, if you will. It takes the time. He says, most entrepreneurs, to your point, John, don't have the patience to stay driven, right? And I like to call it, you've got the sprinters, and then you've got the marathon runners, right? Now, they're opposed. They both can run a race, but they're just going to win differently. Knowing who you are enough to know that if you're a sprinter, you better go get yourself a marathon person, right? So while you're going out doing sprints, they are making sure that they run the race their way, right? And that's what, when we had earlier talked about the two coaches talking about the right way, just do your job. Just do your job, right? And that's what Nick Saban, and they had little cuts that they would go and cut to them saying this: do your job, and the results are what they are, right? How many NFL championships has Belichick won? I think it was 6 or 7, and Nick Saban's got 7 national championships. Coaches rise to the top. Businesses rise to the top because they're just unwilling to give up. Right? It's not to say that if you're going down the wrong path, that you see that and says, well, I'm not giving up on this wrong path, right? Because you can end up like Blockbuster. We're not giving up, right? You keep your mind open, but you keep your mind open to the idea that your business will change, that you will pivot, and then, staying honed in on it. Now, here's another one. When you start thinking about the costs that your business, and now we're getting into our points, right? So costs, one of the things I wrote down, it says, cost isn't allowed unless cost isn't allowed unless it's bringing some profits, right? Now, this is being focused. How are you going to win business and influence profits? Every single thing that you're getting ready to bring into your business, ask a question of it. And I mean multiple questions. How is this thing going to bring me some profits? Right? And then decide, if it's not bringing some profit, then it cannot get in, right? Otherwise, we just find ourselves digging a hole. I'll give you an example. I did a consulting earlier this week with a young man who wanted to start a tech company, and he kind of was stuck and didn't know where to go. And this is one of the things that we ended up talking about. I says, the ideas that he had, he was already getting ready to abandon one that I think this is the one that might end up being the thing. But you got to look at your tech company as the house, and then all these things that you're trying are the rooms. It's not to say that you're going to be in every room all the time, but you're staying consistent with the fact that I am building a house or castle or whatever you want to call it, right? And that's where you start asking yourself, okay, am I laser focused on something that was giving me a modicum of a bit of success, or am I now chasing that new idea? And then, one of the things he says, well, I would like to have, and this is the big part where I really got with him and says, look, do it in this time frame. He says, I want to have this done in 3 months. I says, 3 months? Really? I says, have you heard of the law of Parkinson's? Right? That things expand or contract by the time you allow them. Right? He said, no, I never heard of the law of Parkinson's. I says, now, okay, I tell you what. He had gone to college before. I says, you remember when you had to do a paper and they gave you a month? I says, did you take the whole month or did you get it done in a week? He says, well, I procrastinated for 3 weeks and then I got it done in a week. The law of Parkinson's is in that same way. I says, well, why not say I got a week to get it done? They gave you a month, but you got a week to get it done. In this particular case, he says, I want to start this in three months, at the end of the first quarter. And I says, why not get it done in 3 weeks? So then ask yourself, what will it take to get it done in 3 weeks? Now, you know what it's going to take, John. It's going to take some focus. It's going to take all, but that is the point. You put yourself under that kind of time stamp. That's how you're going to go out there and win business and influence your profits, because you're going to focus in and you're going to just absolutely decide and you're going to start digging. And nothing's going to get your attention until you have dug enough that you've uncovered the gold that you're trying to dig for. And that's, of course, the metaphor for business. That is one of the keys. And I like that, John, that you were saying it takes that focus, right? And it takes that absolute determination. That's what's going to help you win the business and influence profits, guys. You're not going to let costs come into the house if it doesn't bring his friend the revenue, right? It's got to bring some cash flow. You're just going to be honing in on that approach. That'll help you, I believe. Too driven to stop. That'll help.
Absolutely. And that leads me to another play on word book, and that is Surrounded by Idiots. Have you heard of that book?
Surrounded by Idiots. I think I have heard of that before.
And it
says not to be, or you are surrounded by idiots.
I changed it to Surrounded by Leaders. You want to surround yourself by people who are driven, because if you surround yourself with individuals who, like Mark Cuban, his friends were going out and partying, if they influenced him, I mean, they could have had a serious influence on him. And so surrounding yourself with the right people is essential. That individuals who really understand you, they really get what you're trying to do. They're not going to stand in your way. They're going to encourage you and help you get to where you're aiming to be.
Right. Because everybody around you is thinking about the same thing. And that kind of helps me, with one of my next points too, right? It is knowing what to do versus what you're willing to do. So let's think about that for a minute. Knowing what to do is one thing. Willing to do is a total other. And, all of this, if you notice what we're talking about, it comes down to this is how you're going to win. So you say to yourself, in John's case, he says, look, surround yourself with people, right? And I'm saying, okay, knowing what to do. If you have people that are surrounding you that are in that same type of mind frame, that focused mind frame, then that means you have allowed yourself to jump to the other side of, am I willing to surround myself with those folks? And this is what it comes down to, isn't it? Am I willing to let go of my friends that aren't focused on this win and get around folks that are? Are you willing to do that? That becomes the question, right? So as you look at your business, that's what you're saying. You're saying, okay, business, what is happening here? Not enough sales. Okay, tell me how many calls you made. Tell me how many people, how many influencers you leveraged. Because oftentimes, and this is what we know, when we are surrounding ourselves with the right people, they'll say, hey, listen, we're your team. Right? We're your team. So are you leveraging us? Us 4 to 5 to 3 to 4, whatever it is, or 3 to 4 to 4 to 5, people may know 4 to 5 to 10 to 12 more. Are you leveraging that? Are you willing to open up your mouth so that you can get fed? Are you willing? So let's take that. Are you willing to do whatever it takes in your business? Now, most people go, yes, yes. And then you say, okay, well, show me your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And the actions don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
This, I signed up for this, and this is kind of to your point, John. I signed up for this group, and I'm filling them out right now. And so you sign up, right? And it's a whole bunch of other people that think like you, and then they have a couple of questions that they ask of you. And the questions was number one, goals. What are your goals? And then they had a couple. The last question was, what are you willing to do? Oh, how much time are you willing to dedicate to it? And that's a really good question that I just kind of like answered it in a weird way. I says, my time is unlimited. In other words, I'm willing to do. I'm all in. I'm all in to win this. I had, instead of goals, I put process, because I'm getting out of goals and I'm into process. What is my process every day? Right. And these are some things, like I say, when I have my own coming to Jesus moments, if you will, and I have to really, talk to myself about whether I'm focusing too broadly, whether I got too many plates spinning, and, looking at whether the thing that I'm trying to achieve is graspable, and what do I need to do to, see that, right? These, and when getting in groups and being a part of more folks that speak into your life, and that's, again, to your point, who are you surrounding yourself with, was critical for me, because I'm a lone wolf guy. And you've heard me say a little bit about this before. I got to get out of that lone wolf mentality. It's holding me back, because I have an idea, but then I don't have the infrastructure. You know what I mean? I don't have somebody I can reach out to and says, hey, do you know 5 people that can help me present this? And that's a part of my, maturation. And why you guys, when you're hearing this, if you're sitting out there and you're saying, okay, that's me, well, then we're inviting you to change, right? We are inviting you to become a part of something broader. And that's why we formed, the mastermind. So we could talk about our own businesses and then help other businesses as well. So that knowing what to do is going to come from who you're around. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Other people that don't know what to do, or other people that are out there reaching out to folks that have a mindset that can now bring an idea to you? Right? It's so incredible when you surround yourself with people that are out there grinding like you. And this doesn't matter what age group. And sometimes it's smarter if you get an older and you kind of lost your mojo, but you got a whole lot of experience. That experience could help somebody that's got the mojo, but not the experience. Right. And it's probably why we're seeing a lot of these new apps take off. Clubhouse, for example. Right. I started thinking about that. There's an exclusivity to it. Okay. Hey, not everybody can get in. It's only for Apple, iOS people, blah, blah, blah. Right. But when you start getting surrounded by people that know stuff. So somebody built an app that says, hey, and they built the best means by which to disseminate the information. They put a velvet rope around it. So if you really look at the principles there, right? And then they made it exclusive. Hey, you can't get in. You got to get somebody to sponsor you. Right. So now you use the psychology of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. So you see why it could become a very popular thing, and you see why it has. And then once in, you go, oh my God, I was talking with a guy, that drives a garbage truck, but that was a good idea he just dropped. And then somebody else says, well, there was an actor in there and they were talking about this. And you can get in all these little chat rooms and all that kind of stuff. And next thing you know, what do you start getting? People talking about, hey, are you on Clubhouse yet? They call that the network effect. Right. So now those are the principles. Are you willing to go and do what it takes? Now I've said, well, I'm an Android guy. Are you willing to go get some kind of Apple product that allows you to get on? That becomes a question. So can I go find a used iPad? Absolutely you can. You probably spent $200 on something else. Does it matter enough to you? Are you getting in the rooms, knowing what and finding out what to do? That makes sense a little bit, John?
It does. It does.
Because
And
hey, we can argue this point. If you see a point that you go, that's not deep enough. Let's go deep. We can go deeper.
well, I'm going to take it and I'm going to put another book out there. Too big, think big, excuse me, act small. And what
Think
I
big, act
want to
small.
tell, what I want to say is think less, act more. I think what happens is we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and they never leave the ideation stage.
Right.
There's no action. Hey, this is what I want to do. I'm thinking about it. I've done some research on it, but they never take an actual action step. They never open the business. They never push themselves out of the doorway. They always stay safe in that ideation space.
Right.
Hey, and it could be anybody. I mean, we've seen there are numerous people that have fantastic ideas that never get brought to market because they never leave that ideation space.
There's something that they're getting from that, from staying there. You see what I mean? I never forget when I was doing a lot of research on acting as if, right? So this is the concept of, well, don't say what you're going to do, just act as if it's already be in process. And because and this is using a trick for your mind, right? Your mind doesn't like inconsistency. Your mind likes to, save energy. So it will feed you more of that thing you're doing. That's why it sends you dopamine and all that kind of stuff, right? It says, hey, that was good. I'm going to send you a nice, powerful chemical that will remind you that was good. Let's do more of that. So it doesn't like inconsistency. So acting as if, John, to your point, is like that. Hey, I'm not going to think about this anymore. I'm going to act. And I tell you, anytime I'm talking to an entrepreneur, anytime before the end of conversation, I says, let's do one thing toward that idea. And if I hear him in a loop, and I do a lot of this stuff, right? Whether I'm giving it away or whatever. So, hundreds going toward thousands of students now, I hear the loop. I want to be this. This is what I want to do. I says, okay, well, instead of 3 months, let's get it done in 3 weeks. So what is the first thing that you have to do? And once I get them, I says, look, I'm the guy that's going to take the snowball and go up the hill, right? You're the snowball in this story. I'm going to even give it a shove down the hill. But you have to decide you want to be a snowball, right? And that's just the metaphor. I have to decide I want to act. You find somebody that's going to help say, oh, you want to act? Oh, great. I'm going to roll you down the hill. But again, there comes responsibility to now going from a little snowflake to a snowball to a now big thing that has rolled down the hill. And that's where I believe people fall off. They don't want the responsibility, so they stay in a loop. A year from now, they'll be talking about the same thing. And that's what's distressing to me when I'm consulting with someone. If I hear them saying the same things a year from now, I'll say, you were talking about the same thing last year. I'll give you an example. I was doing a consulting with a guy, and he says, I want to open up some additional streams of income. I said, okay, great. I immediately, sent him 3 to 4 to 5 different things that will give him just what he asked for. I saw him a week later. Have you done those things? Nah, I didn't get to it. I said, last year you were talking to me about additional streams of income. So what the work that we have been doing recently is like a series, 3 steps. I'll show you, then I'm going to show you how to put it into play, and then you're going to literally put it into play. So our third series in our getting together is, while you're on screen, you will act on these things.
So that takes me to another book. Play on book words. See, I thought this was all about play on book words. So
Oh yeah, no, this is guys, if you're just coming in, John and I are talking about how to win business and influence people. And that's a play on the book, How to Win Friends and Influence, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? So I says, well, we're gonna take that and spin it, but it's all relative. You can use whatever you need to do and be inspired by it. So what is it, John?
So the innovator's dilemma is the name of the book, and I
Good
changed
book.
that to the dreamers in action. And so, and that goes to speak to what you're talking about is, hey, I'm talking about
You
this. I'm
said the
in
dreamers
dreamland.
in action, right?
Yep.
Yep, the
Yep.
dreamers in action. I love that. So as we think about this now, what we're doing is literally being inspired by books that have a title that you can now translate into your business. So on that point, as you're looking at your business and you're asking of that business, is this thing doing what I need it to do for me? And there's nothing wrong with that. This is something that I put in my notes. There's nothing wrong with you asking your business questions, because, and this is what I wrote, your business works for you and it can be fired.
Mm-hmm.
It can be fired if it's not doing its job. Think about what I just said there. Your business works for you. So how are we going to get out there? Well, what does this got to do with getting out there, winning business and influencing profits? Everything. Winning business means that if you have decided to create the platform called business, then you start saying, business, what are you doing for me? Are you attracting customers with your name, with the name itself? Are you attracting customers with how you bring them in, how you go out there, and how you doing any of this? Now, we understand that you are also part of the business, but we have to have an enticing thing in our business that is an irresistible offer, right? So you start thinking, it doesn't matter if it's a sock company. I say, like John knows I don't get after him, but he knows I do this in care and I do this in concern. When I call up and says, hey, are you doing this? And he's honest enough to say, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that, right? Because, the business plan called to do it a certain way. But as we think about and we start asking those hard questions of our business, is this thing doing for me what I anticipated it would, what I wanted it to, and quite frankly, that it can do?
Right. Right.
Because look, I think about Bomba socks, and guess what? They're giving away millions of pair of socks. John has a similar, hey, this is what we do. We give away money to causes as we sell socks, right? And then you think of Bomba socks. You've heard of Bomba socks, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So we say to ourselves, I'm going to absolutely reverse engineer what they're doing, period. I'm going to be so determined that I'm not giving up. I'm going to do exactly what they do. And that success, and this is the key here, is that success can be yours if you're willing to do that. Are you willing to model them all the way down to, not copy, model? Are you willing? Who do you have on it? Who's the person that all they do is research what they do, what the markets they're in, the conversations they're having, the way their website looks? Who is doing that? Right? And then you say, okay, they seem to have it all sewn up, and you go, what can I add? Well, I can add something that they may not possess, and that's dogged determination. That willingness and unwillingness to give up, that patience that's going to, as we talked about it earlier, that's going to water the bamboo plant, bamboo tree until it
The
grows.
the Bomba socks.
That might have been, who knows how they started that name. It could have been based on, well, we're very patient and we knew we would grow. So we decided to name our, I don't know. I don't know where the origins are, but that becomes the question. Who do I need to go out there and model that will get me to what I believe my idea, when I put it together, was about? So in your business, Same concept. Who are you willing to go out there and model? Now, I got some notes here from a book I read. Look at this. Now, this is a willing to do moment. You guys see that? See how three, and I'm on, this is 300, I don't know how many. I got probably 300 note cards from one book. And I'm just going to go in from the top. And I put pages on them when I was taking notes, and I was getting ideas from, because it was that good of a book. And one of the things the guy says is decide on a platform you want to serve. Pick the platform to publish to first. These are all focus things. Build your dream 100. Now, if as soon as I say dream 100, you should, if you've read this guy's books, you'll know immediately who it is. Start digging your well with your dream 100. Figure out how to serve them. Figure out how to buy your way in. And it says spend 100% of your time until the funnel hits, and this is what I did, till your funnel hits your goal. Now, that's just on page 320, right? This is kind of how I was able to condense down what this person was saying. So I remember when I read this, and a revelation came to me, and the revelation was, man, I don't want to work that hard. He would find 100 people in his space and then find a way to serve them. Right? 100 people that he says, I really like what they do. And then he would start modeling how they're having success. Think about that for your business. 100, and now your dream 10, let's say 10 companies that do what you're doing in your space. Spend 100% of your time figuring out what they do and why it's successful. Right? Some people model just one person. They say that person's having an extreme amount of success. I'm going to do what they do. Okay, that's fine. But in this case, he's saying, no, I want a 100. That's why he called it the Dream 100. But that can be Dream 10, Dream 5, Dream 6, whatever it is. And then you are modeling how they're using are they using a specific email service. Now, here's the thing to worry about, everybody, is you, of course, have to worry about deciding that or determining how to jump in, when to jump in, right? But you go back. How did they start? Because you're going to be seeing them at their middle or at their height, and you're at your beginning. Right? So you can't assume that you're going to get there right away. That's where the patience comes in.
And I think a lot of us have this misconception when we see someone who's already reached a status of success, is it's always been like that.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, Dag, what's wrong with me? I've been doing this for 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, and I'm not seeing that. Well, hold up. That's not where the person, that's not where businesses start. Those, and the businesses that do start like that, those are anomalies. Those are very, very, very far and few. Most companies that you will find that is successful there's work that extends years in infrastructure, that goes back to planning, that nobody even foreknew that this company would exist, but they were working. There was something being worked on. There was a process.
Find out that process, reverse engineer that process. And that, again, goes to, what are you willing to do? Right? What are you willing to do? And I used to watch when Tony Robbins would ask people in his crowds, right? Back when we could actually have people in arenas and all that kind of stuff. So he would say, tell me what 5 to 10 things you've done. Okay. Tell me what 3 things that you've done. It's out there. It's ready for us. Your business wants you to succeed, right? It wants you to succeed. And if it's giving you all indication that it could, John, you started a sock company. Your business says, that's fine. This isn't unusual. This is happening. This is happening out there right now. Are you willing to do all that it takes, right? And then you start saying, well, what are some of those things? And this leads me to what Peter Drucker always talked about, right? He's gone now, but he was like way ahead of his time, and his stuff, even to this day, was, some of it was written in 1947 and 50 and all that kind of stuff, but it's the principles stand true. He says the sole purpose of a business is to get you a customer, get you and keep you a customer. The sole purpose of a business. So you start a thing and its sole purpose should be to get you a customer and keep you a customer. Now, how you do that? You are using the leverage of the business to attract them, right? So that becomes another tip in how to win business and influence people. So how to win business and influence profits. If your sole business, if the sole business's purpose is to get a customer, think about that for a minute. Okay, even if it's a restaurant, and I don't really care for the restaurant space because the profit margins are too iffy, right? But if it's sole business is to do that, we have to absolutely get out there and say, business, go to work for me. And the business will tell you why, because it's got friends that's done the same thing. Hey, that's a successful business. That's a 5-star business. That's a 4-star business. That's there's a chef. Can I get me a chef? Can I find all these different things that are indicators of success? They're out there, right? You've heard the term a success leaves clues, because it absolutely does. But most of the times we're not willing to go out there and get a dream 100, if you will. Model like crazy. Take the necessary time to look at how they started, how they progressed. Ask yourself, are there tools that'll help me get there faster? And now there are tools. And this is something that when I sent John a note last week, I said, John, are you using influencer marketing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I says, hey, because a couple of ideas that came to me as I started researching, because I care about John's business and I'm just curious about business in general. So, and I says, here's a couple of ideas, and it's the space that I'm in, marketing and helping people find business and stuff. So I says, I started looking at companies and how they grew fast. So even as I researched Bamba Socks, guess who is invested in Bamba Socks?
Shark Tank.
Yeah, Shark
Mark
Tank.
Cuban.
Damon John.
Is it Damon Johns? Yep, Damon Johns. Yeah.
Now, so you say, oh, they got Damon John. Well, they've got a juggernaut. So in other words, they attracted somebody. So that's the big idea, right? Now we've got here in the town of Grand Rapids, and John, you're in the Grand Rapids proper for the most part, right? Work here in town and live just like 30 minutes away. But we start thinking about some companies here in town, and I started asking a couple of people that are having some really big success. And I said, hey, what did you do? And I says, like, for example, we've got Kimberly Marie with Lux Brands, right? And she did a couple of things. She had been doing her business, and it had been kind of trickling in, stuff like that. But then she ended up going on a kind of a big platform. I can't remember it was a singer that was putting it together. Was it Akon or Will.i.am or somebody? And no, it was Martin. It was a talk show guy. Roland Martin was having some kind of business, Roland Martin business platform, such and such, right? Because, during the pandemic of 2020, people got just crazy ideas, great ideas. So I think she went as a part of the Roland Martin. I want to say that, I think that's right, Roland Martin's business platform.
And next it was the SBDC. Yep. The Small Business Development Center brought him in to introduce 40 businesses from the state of Michigan. And her business was one of those that was on that platform.
All right. So you see what happened? You looking at your business and saying, well, I've been, lone wolfing this thing myself. Right. And that's had a modicum of success. I've been, trickling in. Then I'm going to now leverage out. So somebody over at the center there got an idea. And then another person says, well, that's a pretty good idea. And next thing you know, she's now, I think, working, somebody saw it because there's influence there. Right. So the influencer now introduced her company to other people, and they came in and said, oh, I love this. Boom, sales went through the roof. Right? Sales go through the roof. And then what did that do? You start leveraging that. Next thing you know, she's in the business journal. More sales. Like, and John, you even said it yourself, that any time that you've gotten press,
Mm-hmm.
You got in sales. So what I said was get press all the time. It's one of those things where you go, oh yeah, that's right. So what do I need to now build? What mechanism do I need to build that constantly gets us, whether it's business journal or press worthy attention?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what we know, right? And the first principles of this, that when I get attention to my business, it gets sales. Attention, sales. All right. So we can reverse engineer that in a variety of ways. So on one hand, one lane, all I got somebody doing is doing press release worthy type stuff, right? Even if you don't think it's press release worthy, you're making sure that there's a press release that goes out regularly, that somebody is calling up some new station, new conversation, new podcast, new something that then is speaking to your avenue. You see my point? And then you say, because what we know to be true is this. When I do this, this occurs. Now you say that's just one lane, right? Now you say, well, what other things that we know that really, really works? Well, influencer marketing. Now I'm in marketing, right? This is what I do. This is what I think about all the time. So if you now say that lane, that traction channel, if you will, is involved in this. So I'm going to spend 30 days out of the year just doing this, getting back to the focus point, not trying to chase too many things. 30 days just on this. Boom. Getting it's what comes from it. 30 days just on this, getting what comes from that. If you know the mechanism that attention equals sales, then you're constantly getting attention to the sales mechanism. You already have the platform, right? So now, got listening out there, everybody that's listening out there, you already have the platform, and you say, is my business now positioned to get the sales in? So if a Damon John saw it, if a Usher Raymond saw it, if a influencer saw it, can they now go and order to their heart's desire? In other words, do you have the mechanism to fulfill, right? Because we saw a picture of the Lux brand, right? And she had a pile,
She couldn't
boxes and
even
boxes.
maneuver. She couldn't maneuver down a hallway. It was so full.
Right. And see, and one of the reasons I do digital is for that express purpose. I don't want to have bottlenecks. I don't want to be the bottleneck. I've created a digital product, digital course, digital something that when you get that influx, there's no, you don't have to turn off the spigot. If the spigot goes on high, the only thing you have to worry about is crashing your servers, right? And people can get as much as they want. But if your business is of the physical nature, you see what just happened here. And you say, well, part of my business is getting the labels put on and ramping up and all that kind of stuff. So this is the lanes by which, and this is to what Peter Drucker talked about, the sole purpose of your business is to get a customer, win a customer, keep a customer. He talks about innovating and he talks about marketing, those things. Innovation, marketing. Probably marketing first. Business, marketing, innovating so that you keep them. Mm-hmm. Ask that of your business right now. If it is stagnant, ask yourself why and what is missing. And if you can say, well, I don't know, that's why it's stagnant. Well, that's where you surround yourself with other folks. John and I are here available to you. It's not hard to get in touch with us. Two business guys at gmail.com. You can send us a note. All right. You can see the two people. Our names are right there. Jay Hendershot, Randy Otterbridge. Send us a DM. Mm-hmm. So when we'll come in and we'll go, let's mastermind on this business, John, and let's get it to where it wants to be, where it deserves to be, out there serving the people and getting customers. Right? We'll let you know where you're at, and we will institute the necessary things to get you going. This is now we put these calls out. If you're just jumping on, the main theme of today's conversation is how to win business and influence profits. a play on a book. And John has introduced some other things. So if you're just coming on, listen to go back. We drop little nuggets and little gems throughout our talks. We want you to listen to the whole thing. We want you to take notes. John takes notes all the time, right? And I do.
I don't have 300 note cards or how many, but
hey,
yeah.
Are you willing to do what I took? I literally took, I think it was a week to read this book. It was that important to me. And the information was that gold. And now I'm preserving it with this. I pick these up as a reminder sometimes of what I'm not doing. Right? I put together a dream 3. And then I read this and says, no, dream 100 of people that you are saying, I need to get to know them. I get to see how they do what they do in their business. And then I need to model it, reverse engineer what I can. And then, can I then ask of my business, can you have the same success? Your business is saying, absolutely, but you haven't been giving me time. You haven't been giving me focus. You've been running off, not giving 30 days to one thing. You give 3 days to it. Give 30 days to a attraction channel, if you will, to see if it works. And when you find the one that works, the one that's giving you sales back, that's when you pour the gas to it, right? And when we're running ads, we ask this question. If you give me $1 to run an ad, metaphor, dollar could be $10, $100, $1,000, and it returns back to you $2, is that a good deal? Right? And someone will go, well, no, not really, because it's too small. What do you mean? It just doubled your money. So if that concept, an idea is consistent, if you gave 2, put 2 in that running ads, and it returned 4. Right? Again, going back to the main thing, how to win business and influence profits, and that you don't introduce a cost unless it's bringing the revenue. Right? That's not to say that's a lot. So you could say $20, $30, because I'm running some ads right now. And depending on what you're trying to achieve, sales, and it's bringing you $1 back or bringing you an extra $1 back, 100% of your money. Are you kidding me right now? If it brings you 50% back, those are margins. I love it, John. This is something that you got to be careful of when someone says, hey, I had sales of X amount last month. You know, the first question I ask?
How much did you spend?
Against what cost?
Right,
or I'll say, to be more respectful, I'll say, hey, what's your margin?
Right.
If they can't answer that question, then something's fishy. If they say 25%, okay? So you say, hey, I had sales of 10,000, 25% of is my margin. Right, nice. Because you can't get that anywhere else. So now your business is leveraged to give you what you have asked it to do. You've asked it to enrich you. You've asked it to grow up and be a money generating opportunity. So you can spend that money. And if it's giving you 25% back, not too bad. But don't you want it higher? Right. And this is why I talk about in one of the notes I have in here, John, is thin profit margins. Thin profit margins is an error in judgment. Let's expand on that a little bit. Thin profit margins, error in judgment.
I think profit margin is a profit margin, right? So if I'm making money, and it all depends too. What is that thin? What's the scale that I'm selling that at? So I could have a really small profit margin, but I'm selling millions of something. So I'm going to have, so many sales that small margin is going to add up to a lot of money.
So in other words, now this is where we might argue, right? In other words, you're saying, hey, well, I'm building up the water that's going to eventually become the tsunami.
Right.
And I'm saying thin profit margins is an error in judgment. In other words, you went into the wrong business for your time and effort, right? That if you've got the business and now if you are looking at this now, this is the big part. If you're just jumping in, we're really getting into how to win business and influence profits, right? So the influence profits part of this, then profit margin. And you're saying, you know what, this thing is only returning me 4% profit margins. And I'm saying that's an error in judgment, because in this day and age, we want to be in a business that is returning 10 times that. Well, how do I do that? This is the business I've chosen. And that is where the secret sauce lie, right? Well, you started that restaurant, that 3%. You started that grocery store, that 3%. What else can that business be that then brings you different profits, right? I was listening to a story, and I don't know if I can say much about it because it was in a different group. And it's not the Clubhouse group, because they don't like you to curate the conversations, right? But in this particular case, this lady was, she made the fatal error of telling me that she had a big month in sales. And I says, what are your profit margins? And she started fumbling, because she could have been making $10,000 a month, but she's spending $9,900. Then your profit margins are all jacked up, right? But as soon as I start hearing 40, 50%, 60, 70% profit margins, the main thing that jumps out to me is that, oh, that's a business, that's an opportunity to be in, a space to be in, right? And Jeff Bezos said that. He says, if he hears these kind of profit margins for company, he says to himself that those are opportunities to get into that space, because he has a different mindset. He has a growth mindset, right? He says, he's like what you talk about, John. He says, I'm going to not have any real big returns for the bigger idea, right? The tsunami that's coming. And I love to put Apple and his business up against each other, even though it's apples and oranges, literally, right? So he says, we're not going to make any money. He tells his investors. And Apple says, we're going to making a pile of money. So they're sitting on $50, $61 billion in cash, because their business has spooned off that, has given that much. And Jeff Bezos now has the biggest company in the world. So one of the biggest companies in the world. So, and his investors have reaped billions of dollars as a result. You see, different approach. And, you say, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. And it's varied, and it has been able to come up with so many other lanes to earn. And that gets me to my main thesis, right? Is what else can your business be? Thin profit margins, error in judgment, to only think that that's the business that you should be in. And that's getting, again, to what Peter Drucker says. He says, listen, innovation is the second part of this. Marketing and then innovation. Jeff Bezos innovated, right? Some people don't know his company for, selling stuff as a marketplace. They know his company as, well, they produce the pipeline for my business, for me to run my business, AWS. Mm-hmm. And people are like, what's AWS? Well, it's a $1 billion entity. It's like, oh, that's interesting. You see what I mean? So he has made his company more than it was originally. Think about that and reverse engineer that thought. So you have a thin profit margin business. But then what else can it be? And what you come up with, whether you use John and I to help you think about this, or use this, you figure it out. Oh my goodness gracious. It's like the department store that used to do the sales, and they would have the loss leader out there in front, but they got you in, and then that's where they win. Is your business set up so that it gets people in and then you win? That's how you increase your profits. That's how you win business, right? You win business and influence profits by that kind of thinking. So if you're sitting there and you're looking at that business, and that damn business is not, you ask yourself, business, are you about to get fired? And the business says, no, I don't want to get fired. I really want to work for you. Okay. What else can you be, business? Right now, that's a different way to think about stuff, right? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to metaphor things?
And know that from my perspective as well, in an industry that I used to be in formerly, with dealing with some customers, you would have very thin profit margins. But doing that, like for example, when we would put pipe in the ground in the wintertime, that was costly. I mean, you're talking about frozen ground, more hours, more fuel, heaters, and on job sites and whatnot. A lot more expense, a lot less profit margin. But if I would have said no, I'm not doing that, then I could have kissed every other contract goodbye. Because what's going to happen is they're going to go to the next person and they're going to say, hey, are you going to do this? And since you're willing to do this, you'll have all these other opportunities on top of it. Even when we did trucking for gravel hauling and different things like that, very low profit margins in that, but it gave us opportunities to make a lot of money in other areas as well.
Right.
That's where I see the low profit margins in one area doesn't necessarily mean, hey, don't do it. We have to look at the big picture and say,
have a master strategy.
Yes. Is this going to impact other things? And if the answer is yes, then you may want to take a real hard look at it.
And therein lies the opportunity and why it's the way you're thinking about your business, right? And this is why when we mastermind, we are thinking through on some things, right? We say, okay, well, that's why I always talk about ask your business, what else can it be? Right? Even if you're focusing in and say, but what is the strategy? What's that master strategy here? What is that overriding thing I'm trying to get to? And if you can map that out, then you can start testing whether or not each one of the things that you're doing is achieving that outcome. When I brought people in and lost money, did I have a long-term value on that person that I got in? So I lost 50 cents here, but if they come through my pipeline and do these other things that, other people seem to have done, can I then make $15? That's a strategy. That's when you're looking at it. But if your business is, well, I make money doing X and that's it, then you're going to lose. That's an error in judgment. So this is why when you're out there looking at your business, this is why we really want to have this conversation, is because now you have to, when you ask yourself, what more can it be? You may not be able to see it because you've been in the grind, right? You are inside the jar and you can't see the label, if you will. So you now have, when you listen to our podcast and you say, oh, wow, that's right. What else can it be? And if you want to call us up and we'll help you do it. Now we're going to charge you for that, but we'll help you do it. But if you just spend some time with it and then you go out there and find someone that may be doing similar and or an industry that you can see, oh, wow, if I just reverse engineer what they do in this industry and I put it into mine, now you could be ahead of the game doing something in a totally different way. And you could be winning business and influencing profits. That becomes key. And that takes a willingness to get outside that comfort zone. John talked about it, to see that there may not be a box here, not jumping outside the box, right? Because I go, hey, there's no box. And then say, can I get surrounded around people thinking like, acting like, believing in like me? And as a result, boom, my business. Is that available? Absolutely, it's available to you. Are you willing to get your butt over there and get into it? You know what I mean? Are you willing to even pay the consultant? This is really something that bugs me a lot. Are you willing to pay the consultant that has consulted in a variety of areas, right? Are you willing to negotiate with them and says, hey, listen, how about if we do this pay to play? That if I win, you win too. And is that consultant willing to do that? I've done a lot of deals like that. hey, don't pay me until you get success, right? But when you get success, don't try to mess with my money. You know what I mean? We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then we're going to increase, boom, boom, boom. Back in. That's the back end part of it, right? And some consultants, either they don't have the confidence in themselves, they're not willing to do that. They want to get that check right away. I want equity. Are you willing to give up a piece of the thing to then grow the business? And then now you jump in. Or do you take your check, go cash it, and spend it? You see my point here? Getting in these groups and putting those kinds of offers out there. Hey, listen, if you can grow my business, I'll give you 1% of it. 2%, 3%, whatever it is. And that person's incentivized. And then if you don't grow it, then I take it back, kind of a thing. I don't know, put some kind of exploding offer in there. But that becomes the willingness, right, to get out there and do this. Remember, and this is one of the things that John alluded to it earlier, and it's something that I wrote in my notes, and I said, an idea does not the business make. No, that's not Shakespearean. An idea does not the business make. We get people that have ideas upon ideas upon ideas. We're probably no different. We get ideas upon ideas upon ideas. But if you start applying these things to it, this is where you win. Okay, this idea is going to cost me to put it into play. Where's the revenue? Find that. Bring that cost, bring your friend revenue, otherwise I can't do you. Right? And when we create a thing, then we have to say, this is created for this. And then we watch it, come to fruition. We've got to be able to link that thing that we just came up with to that other outcome. If it can't show it, we can't do it. That's the discipline part, right? Like Nick Saban talked about, the things that you're willing to give up. And sometimes it is, are you willing to give up that new idea that you came up with to finish the one you started last week? And you say, well, I don't know. Well, then that's where we say, that's why we talk about the law of Parkinson's. We say the time that you gave to it, you got to be able to get it done quickly. I've done it in my own life. Every Friday, something has to be produced. Can this new idea get done by Friday? That kind of a thing, right? In other words, 7 days. Can it get done in a week? If it can't get done in a week, it might be I shouldn't do this, or I should make it a someday maybe opportunity. You know what I mean? So then that way you are absolutely putting your idea to the test, because an idea does not the business make. So, hey, we hope that you got some value from this, everybody, as you're listening to this stuff. We like to get fired up ourselves, because I don't know about you, John, but after we have these Saturday, masterminds, things come to me. And I tell you, last week I had gotten off track for like 2 weeks. And what I would typically do, John, is we do the podcast, and then I foo around for the rest of the day. And then I didn't get to what I know works. And what I know works, John, is when I edit it out and I set it up, I put it on the platform and schedule it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, that takes me up until a certain amount of my day. And I says, I'm tired of, giving up my day to do this thing. That's where the patience come in, right? It's a startup. The podcast is a startup. And then I was like, well, I'm not seeing the traction that I want. And then it starts showing some traction. People start doing more play. Then we start doing some things to bring people in. And then it start growing, right? But if we had says after, 8 episodes, man, I'm not doing this. After 13 episodes, But now we're starting to see the benefits of this. And now we look at it and says, okay, podcast, what else can you be? Just like we tell you guys, what else can you be? And that's why it says we're entering into different phases. First phase, start it, do it, be consistent. Second phase, like the watering, second phase of it. We start talking to other people about it, start attracting more people to it. Third phase, we start saying, okay, revenue, you got to come. You got business, you got to do more. Right? Mm-hmm. And these are the steps that we are suggesting that you're taking with your business, because that's how you're going to win business and influence those profits. We hope that we've been able to drop some gems throughout, and even in some of the gems, the inspiration. Right? John talks a lot sometimes, I talk a lot sometimes, but here it goes. Can you say that helped me today? That inspired me, fired me up, reminded me, whatever it is, pulled me back to the water, so you can drink. And if that has happened, then John, like he talked about earlier, action. Action next. Find just from one card, look at this, one index card. Find your 100 businesses, your 10 businesses that you say, they're successful. I'm doing exactly what they do. Going to Kobe Bryant this thing. He modeled Michael Jordan to the bone. I guarantee you somebody's out there saying LeBron James in 3 different organizations has won championships. I'm modeling what I do after him. But get this. Now, this is the part that we really want you to see. That's not his only business. That's just the platform. So he asked himself, business, LeBron James, what else can you be? I could be a spokesperson. I could be an activist. You see what's happening here. Now he says, now I have to take care of the main thing. So he puts $1 million into his body, because that is the thing, that is the platform that has brought the other endorsements, shoe deals, commercials, TV shows, whatever it is, that is now building up the bulk of his business. He didn't look and says, well, shoot, basketball is the only thing. That would have been an error in judgment. Then profit margin, time in, money out, although it's a lot of money. What about that other player that's only making 500 grand, right? Can he leverage himself and become, who was that? I think it was a Chinese basketball player, Jeremy Lin. He was making peanuts, like the minimum. And he started saying, if I made a whole bunch of points in one game and I started getting some rub, next thing you know, this guy is like a hero. They started calling him Linsanity because he would go off with 30-point eruptions. And he leveraged that. He was just a guy. He had some good height, but he leveraged himself. Didn't have to be the star player, but ended up being, putting such work in that he created something like amazing. John, your business is like that, man. I talk about it all the time. I think about your business probably too much. Why am I thinking about his business? I need to, worry about my own. But I look at it and I say, you know what? That thing has so much potential. And I think that it just has to, because I think you want it to be a big thing. You know how when we, I think in our first episode, you says, I thought this thing would make $1 million like out the gate.
Yep.
The business plan looked good. And this is funny, John. I was consulting with a guy. He says, well, my business plan shows me how I'm going to make money. My business plan shows me how I'm going to make money. I says, well, like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Right? And then they drop their hands. And that's when he wins. So every business has a plan until the marketplace hits it in the mouth. Competition hits it in the mouth. And then it does what? Gets up off the canvas, gets up off the marketplace, with a broken tooth, concussion, and finishes, and or let that shake you up so you can shake it off, so you can go, I need to do something better and different. That's what we're hoping that you're able to get from what we talked about today on, how to win business and influence your profits in this particular session. Send us information if this helped you a little bit. And we want your questions, because we'll build a whole show around your questions. And John and I will come on and answer just those. In fact, John, we should do that. We should put out a poll, because we got a really exciting guest that's coming on next week. And hopefully he's able to make it. He's a really, really busy guy. And I really can't wait to get him on and just, have him, just expound on some of the things. We're going to have some questions for him and all that good stuff. And, And that's, again, another phase of the business, right? Bringing in other guests. Just hearing us is fine, but let's bring in some other people, and then we mastermind all together, right? Then I got a couple ladies that I want to have on, and I want to have Kimberly on. I want to have Ariana Waller on. Just a couple people that I say, okay, here are people doing certain things. Let's go ahead and, for our listeners, bring in that mastermind approach to another person and have them just share jewels with us. Now, we also call that the leverage moment. We don't have to talk a lot. We can shut up and listen, and we'll leverage other people's conversations, right? That's the key. So that's why we want your questions and answers. I've been doing a lot of questions and answers, John. I did like 5 question and answer sessions for my other business last week and was able to get some tremendous content. I'm loading them up on my Facebook page and YouTube channel. Q&A, right? I love them. You get a chance to get in and have some tremendous conversations with some folks, and just light bulb moments, man. When you see that entrepreneur eyes open on screen, like, yes, it's those moments, man, that you just, you clamor for. So, John, what are some of the last things, if you got another book that you didn't get a chance to talk about, that we can lay on our listeners before we close up?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that. We have to make decisions. We have to make decisions after ideation, and we have to actually step into it. Even though it may be uncomfortable, even though we're hoping that somebody else picks up the baton and runs with it, we need to make sure that we're acting upon that, and that we're continuously watering the bamboo, and being patient while we do that. But it's the consistency of doing best practices that's going to bring about success. If you're not doing nothing, if you're not doing anything, and you're only dreaming about it, you'll never become successful.
That's good stuff. And mine for you guys today is, it's kind of an ode to what Peter Thiel talked about one time. He says, if you've got a 6-year plan, you got this big 6-year plan. I think he made 6 or 10 year. I can't remember. He says, ask yourself, how can I get it done in a year? How can I get it done in a year? And the entrepreneur I was working with last week talked about, well, I want to get it done in 3 months. I said, how can you get it done in 3 weeks? I would have said 3 days, but I didn't want to shock him too much. How can you get it done in 3 weeks? Condense it, focus it. Your energy's focused like a magnifying glass will burn through some stuff. Mm-hmm. That's what we got for you. We hope that worked. Guys, if you want to get in touch with us, you can go to twobusinessguys@gmail.com. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure because I changed up some stuff. But that is the way to get in touch with us so that you can, get these questions to us, right? We want your questions. That's not the letters 2, but the number 2, twobusinessguys mastermind@gmail.com. All right. Let's get that stuff into us, and we're going to start helping your business. We'll talk to you next time. John, great session, man. I appreciate you today.
Absolutely. I always appreciate you, Randy. So I hope that it's not just today you appreciate me.
You see,